Hello, hello. We are live once again on Process Automation release notes. Welcome, Jake. Welcome, Forrest. This one is on version 5.1, which was released on February 14, if I'm correct. But before we actually talk about 5.1, there was also another release 502, right? That maybe you guys want to mention was released like
There
shortly before
was, and
that,
it
right?
was, it was, ironically ended up coming out just a couple of days before the 5.1.0 release. So yeah,
Yeah,
let's start with that one.
yeah. I'll share the links on the chat as well for people
Yeah,
that want to read
we've
about it.
got the links for those. I'll share my screen here.
Yeah.
Um, so when it comes to the 5.02 release, right? We had our 5.0 release. Back in January, and just the sheer volume of work and size of that release. We unfortunately ran into a few bugs. We did release the 5.01 along the ways, which addressed a few fixes. But the 5.02 is where we had to land to really get everything tuned up and fixed. So in some of those previous versions, the 5.00 and 5.01 had kind of a compulsory runner upgrade, which was just overlooked during the process. We don't want that to happen, and it wasn't required. So it's no longer the case that if you're going to upgrade from a 4 series release, 4.17 or something, to if you upgrade to 5.02, you can your runners will continue working. We still obviously encourage upgrading to the new functionality and keeping those in line with the server version is recommended, but it's not like required, and you don't have to like time everything. Right? We know that customers have these runners spread out everywhere, and it might not be feasible to just do that big bang upgrade, if you will.
Yeah.
um,
So the call to action here is, and of course, after like any major release, there are always bugs that we identify. They were kind of fixed. So the call to action here is, okay, move to 5.02. Well, instead of like 5.01 or 5.50,
yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Also, with the 5.0 release, we noticed that a few of the changes we made, we weren't able, customers weren't able, and in other situations where we're writing jobs, that we're sharing, if they were written on the 5.0 release, nothing was working on 4.x. So we also resolved some issues around that. Right. This is probably a rare use case. If you're upgrading, hopefully you're just continuing to move forward. But in the event that there's either dev or someone's just doing some stuff on the side and trying to share backwards to 4, you'll want to get to 5.02 before you export those and take them back to the 4.x.
Okay.
Yeah, it's worth noting, like, we make a high priority of keeping the job definition compatibility very static, like, so that job definitions that you write today can be used with run deck. I mean, going back a long time, probably even into the 3 series. So we are going to continue to try to stand by that. So
yeah,
that's
I mean, since we're talking about it, there are some limitations, right? If the newer version or your job steps are using a plugin or have a step that is not in that previous version, that is obviously not going to work, and we're not going to import that. We're going to bring up an error, but that's expected. That code did not exist. This particular issue is just for even the simplest of jobs, for steps that we've had. You could call. I guess you could call them like our vanilla steps, right? Like the command step and the script step, and the things that we know are heavily used weren't going backwards for those jobs. Backwards compatibility, within the realm of it should work there, is fixed with this 502.
Cool.
There is a flag. XML support on the API is deprecated. It's not gone. There is still a flag, and it's documented out there that if you upgrade to 5 and you realize that you still had a few bits of the API that were using XML, you can turn it back on, and hopefully fix those up. The deprecation in particular means we're not going to any new endpoints won't get XML support, and at some point we may fully take that code out in the future. And it is off by default in 5.0. That being said, the flag to turn it on wasn't working. It is working now in 502. So we weren't trying to play tricks or pull a fast one, and we do want the flag to work. So now that flag works appropriately.
So people can use this feature as well, but being aware that in the future this might disappear. This feature might disappear in the long run. Right?
Yes. Once we put that deprecation out there, if it still works, take it as a gift that we can, or a loan, a short-term loan that we can recall at any time. I don't know. I don't know the best way to categorize it, but it is going away. 5.0 and forward. And then the last one, probably the one that definitely had some potential for impact, and ironically also was the one that we iterated on quite a bit. It took a little while to get through this 502 release. I'll acknowledge that and own that, but we were trying to get it right in the 5.0. The JSON JQ, the log filter that uses that. Some of those libraries were updated and therefore impacted that log filter, and that is ubiquitously used to process JSON output from your steps. There's some irony in this, and that we updated the libraries, and that update actually made the log filter work better. I don't know if better is the right word, but it made it work in a way that aligned with how the command line tools work, like the JQ command line tool works, right? As opposed to previous versions that added a bunch of extra quoting to so it would run that run the JQ, and then the output would have some extra quoting, and therefore previous code had to work around that. You had to work around that quoting situation in order to get the proper output. Well, the updated libraries made it work, as it probably should have from the start, but it could, break in the sense that if you wrote code to get around the quoting, well, now if the quotes are gone, your code doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
So we built in some additional logic, particularly to this 502 version, that if you have an existing JSON JQ log filter, it will and you haven't touched it, it will continue to use the previous behavior, right? The 4x behavior. Even if you go and edit other parts of the job, it will leave that alone. What you will see is when you go into the JSON JQ log filter now, there is a checkbox that says use the old quoting behavior.
So you can enable or disable that.
You can enable or disable that.
Okay.
Now the default is it is turned off. So if you go in and edit specifically a job filter and click save again, it will then assign a value, true or false, to that.
Yeah.
Clicking true, clicking the checkbox means it'll still use the old behavior.
Yeah.
But but we wanted the default going forward, new jobs, etc., to use
Exactly.
the new expected behavior.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
So
Sound like it makes
definitely
sense.
some things that were sticking points to that 5.0 release. Iterating it and making sure that we got some of these right, as Jake was alluding to, especially since two of them impacted the job definitions and the execution of jobs. We wanted to get it right. It did result in a little bit of iteration, which brought us to releasing this just 2 days before the real reason we're here.
Yeah.
The 5.1.0 release notes.
Yeah.
So if there aren't any other questions or comments in the chat about 5.0.2, we'll shift gears to 5.1.0.
Yeah, I don't see any questions.
Right.
So
5.1.0
move forward, and if there are any questions, we can go back.
Yeah. 5.1.0 does, as it says right here, all of the fixes that we just talked about in 5.0.2 are also in the 5.1.0 release, right? So I'm going to pass the highlights to Jake because he has been working and trying to get this out for a year and a half now. It's been on our list, and Jake does a lot for us. And we finally got this bubbled up to the top and got this out. So I'm going to let Jake take this one.
Yeah, thankfully it didn't take us a year and a half to write it. It just took us a year and a half to get around to getting it out of our backlog. I'll quickly mention the CyberArk and Thycotic first, just so that people are aware of that, and we can highlight it, and then we can move on to the main agenda item. But the CyberArk and Thycotic key storage plugins on the enterprise runner is actually pretty valuable for a number of customers that use these secrets management providers that typically are self-hosted, and therefore the only way that you can use them if you're using our SaaS product would be by interacting with them through the enterprise runner. And even if you're using our on-prem product, your CyberArk or Thycotic might be hosted in a different zone, a different network than where Process Automation on-prem is hosted, or you might have multiple instances for different departments. There's all sorts of reasons why it's beneficial to be able to integrate through the enterprise runner with these plugins. Previously, the runner could integrate with HashiCorp Vault, but now it can do the same with CyberArk and Thycotic, and you can now use those secrets throughout the platform, whether that's for authenticating via SSH keys to nodes, or integrating with certain tooling, like your API tokens for Jira and ServiceNow might be stored in there for discovering nodes, and again, just all throughout the platform. So the other secrets management provider plugin that we released is AWS Secrets Manager, and this is, I'd say, it kind of completes our AWS integration picture in that we have a full suite of integrations with AWS to interact with all sorts of services from EC2 to ECS and Fargate containers, RDS, S3, and so on. And then we've built out a wealth of integrations around their systems manager execution mechanism of dispatching commands and scripts. And so what this does is it allows us to complete that picture by utilizing secrets that are stored in AWS and leverage those for all sorts of use cases, like those that I mentioned earlier, whether that's integrating with tools or connecting to databases or connecting to nodes and so on. So what's interesting about AWS Secrets Manager is that, and this was kind of alluded to on that first screen that Tiago was showing, which is that you can have secrets reside in the different AWS regions for a given AWS account, and they're segmented by region. And so, and that's kind of what's highlighted here on this first screen, and I can show it in the demo, and that is that we make it easy to pull in whatever secrets you want from the various regions that you want, again, assuming that the permissions that you've given to our product allow it to discover secrets from across all of those regions. Furthermore, we also make it fairly easy to pull in secrets or integrate with multiple AWS accounts. And this is just so commonplace. And this is what we've invested in with our other AWS integrations as well, is making it easy to integrate across multiple accounts. And so with that, we can pull in all secrets from all accounts, from all regions fairly easily, and then allow users to say that, users within this project of Runbook Automation can access these secrets pulled in from this AWS account. And then, this other team that's using this other project in Runbook Automation can access secrets from this other AWS account. So we can really align the segmentation and multi-tenancy of multiple teams operating out of the tool fairly well.
I was about to ask you about that, because it seems like Forrest has been kind of scrolling through the guides basically to implement all of this, and it seems like it's very similar to other features that we released previously on AWS that would allow us to kind of grab to kind of look for EC2 instances in multiple accounts and all that. Does it require like an additional configuration, additional plugin, or it's just basically built on top of on the configurations that we had previously?
Yeah, a good question. And so it by and large, it builds on top of the other authentication mechanisms that we've built into the product. And so if you are using, if you're running self-hosting Runbook Automation in AWS on an EC2 instance or an ECS container, so you're self-hosting our product, the permissions that you give to the instance that it's running on will be inherited by any AWS plugin in the product. But that's only for that account. Typically, you can only endow like an EC2 or an ECS with permissions for the account that it resides in. But the AWS Secrets Manager plugin, like our other plugins, allow you to put in an IAM role that the plugin can assume. And what that leverages is the assume role capability, so that plugin can take the permissions from the container EC2 that it's residing on, but then use the assume role function to get the permissions for another AWS account. And that is in line with how we've done it for the other plugins, such as our EC2 resource model, or systems manager integration. So it follows the same principles and mechanics. And similarly for Runbook Automation, if you're using our SaaS product, you give the product an initial set of permissions through an IAM role, and that connects with your, kind of your base, maybe call it your central AWS account. But then for each of our plugins, you can give it that assume role ARN, and that allows it to, hop basically to another AWS account and then performance operations there.
Yeah, that makes it easier to use, definitely. And this is like the pattern that AWS recommends and that you guys have been implementing in different AWS integrations that have been built. So that's perfect from a user experience. Can we get a demo of this?
Yeah, assuming Chrome doesn't decide to opt in on me or anything like that. Yeah. So let's make sure I share the right screen here. I'd like to record. All right, well, let's try to do this.
Okay, I can see it, and there you
go. We're good.
Yep.
Great. Okay. So actually, I'll start in AWS Secrets Manager. And so, this is to kind of demonstrate what I was mentioning at the beginning here, whereas I'm, in US West 1, and I've got some secrets here, dev/SSH key.
We're seeing Rundeck if you're trying to show AWS.
I think it's just a specific tab. Interesting. Okay, it was only one tab. Let's do a window then. Thank you for calling that out. We're good here?
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Secrets Manager.
Much better. All right, so we're in US West 1, and when I click on secrets here, I see the different secret names. And then I can view metadata about the secret. The actual secret value is hidden until I click that button. But then if I go into, say, US East 2, I see my secrets here listed here, right? I can zoom in here, right? So I've got a whole list of secrets, and I can navigate into those, and then they would be retrieved via this secret. So now when I hop into Process Automation, now in the Key Storage Configure tab, you'll see this new plugin configured here. And you can see that this defines where in our key storage tree you want those secrets to appear. And this is that assume role field that I was mentioning, right? Which is, it's optionally used if you wanted to basically authenticate with another ARN, for, again, maybe it's for the kind of permissioning sets that you've created for a given AWS account, or if, again, you want to hop to another account. And then this is what I was mentioning as well, which is that we make it really easy to pull in as many regions as you would like for the given AWS account. So in this case, I'm not using that assume role because I just want to pull in the secrets for the account that this process automation instance is hosted in. So I don't have to do anything extra there. And then we added some simple filter behavior. Maybe you want to filter out secrets. Maybe you didn't use IAM as the way to limit access to these secrets, but maybe you just don't want to crowd the key storage tree in process automation with extra secrets, so you can include or exclude secrets that contain a certain substring. So now that I've integrated, though, I can actually browse these secrets, right? And I can see the different regions that we selected there. And I click on US East 2, and that's when it actually communicates to AWS and pulls those secrets in. So what's nice about that is that we don't just go and try to pull all secrets all at once when you integrate. We pull them in as you navigate the tree or as a given job requires the given secrets.
Would that be the same behavior for the runner? If
yes.
The runner, yeah. Okay.
Well, so the way that this is going to work is that the server, which is the process automation server, or the Runbook automation SaaS product, is the one communicating with the AWS secrets service, and then it's going to pass the key, the encrypted key, to the runner. So the runner itself is not making the connection out to AWS.
Okay.
And so I can navigate through here and again see the different secrets that are pulled in, and then you would reference these keys just as you would any other secret that you've integrated into process automation or you've added into our key storage facility. And so within a job or a node source plugin, I would just reference the key storage path. So I don't need to do anything special here to start leveraging these secrets. And I just kind of alluded to this implicitly, but what's nice about the way that we implement these plugins is that you're not restricted to only using the AWS Secrets Manager plugin. You can use it in tandem with HashiCorp Vault as well as our own local key storage facility. So you can mix and match as you see fit. And again, this is not uncommon. Even here at PagerDuty, we use multiple secrets management providers for various purposes or for various teams. And so we accommodate that fairly easily.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So basically it's I would say like a central location that has access to multiple key storage providers that, well, you can use as you want in your workflows, in the scripts or whatever you are building. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Is there anything else on 5.1, or maybe if you want to give us a sneak peek on what's coming next that you want to share?
There are a few more things I'd like to talk about on the 5.0 release.
Sure.
Let me bring that back up. But I wanted to thank the community. This release, we got quite a few pull requests from the community, both against either our docs repository or against the actual code. trying to pick them out of the long list here. They're not really, grouped, but I know that, there was I think a Rafa Walter user account on GitHub that provided us some Brazilian translation updates, which is really cool. We do rely on the community for translation into other languages. The construct is there, but we don't do the actual language part. So, this was hugely helpful. And so, some of these pull requests were pretty big. So we do highlight the community contributors in our release notes each time. If your pull request got merged, it gets pulled into here. So, like I said, this Rafa one I just looked really quick was related to the translations. A variety of these others are related to our docs site. Just community members helping us probably fix my typos in the docs. Other members here are providing just some great content to help us. So that's a thank you out to some of those. And then looking through the list, there's some of the things we did talk about here. There's some other bugs and fixes that internally refer to them as our sustaining engineering team. They are the engineers that focus on bugs, both found in the community and reported from customers. Right, they go after and attack quite a bit of that. So they're a very valuable team to us.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I would just like to share a message that came from the chat from Domain. This is really important because this is a product now maintained by basically put out there by PagerDuty, but there's a big community behind it still, and it's very important to see that community is very active, and there are a lot of contributions in this list, and that's really, really good to see.
Yeah, this is the pull request that came from originally from the Rafa Walter. Because of the way we have the repository set up, sometimes it sort of looks like I did it. I definitely didn't do it. I just merged it somewhere. But there's quite a bit of effort put in here, and this is just really appreciated.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Definitely. Anything else that you would like to share on this release, or anything on the next release that you guys are working on? Or do we want to keep it in the shadows for now?
I think looking ahead, just looking ahead, broad picture, we're going to continue to invest in, ways to make the runner just more helpful across the board. Right. Jake's spearheading quite a bit of that. We're also going to be looking at, usability improvements, coming, in future quarters, probably later this year. So yeah, definitely more to come.
Perfect. Well, I guess that does it for today. Thank you so much, Jake and Forrest, for joining, and for anyone watching. Thank you so much for joining us today, and see you on the next Process Automation release notes.
See you later.
See ya.
Thanks.